The federal government yesterday, Monday, said all frontline states on the part of River Benue may experience flooding within the next 7 days as a result of the opening of the Lado Dam in Cameroon. Speaking at the briefing in Abuja held at the instance of the presidential committee set up by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, said the new committee would implement various policies and rescue missions aimed at mitigating the impact of the flood from the dam. She urged the Nigerian Governors Forum to step up action by ensuring the immediate evacuation of Nigerians from flood-prone communities to safer destinations. The release of huge volume of water from the Lado Dam in Cameroon has made states along the path of River Benue in Nigeria brace up for possible flood disaster in their various domains. According to the National Emergency Management Agency official, no fewer than 11 states, including Adamawa, Taraba, Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, Anambra, Edo, Delta, and Bayelsa rivers and cross rivers are likely to feel the negative impact of the opening of the dam. The states on Sunday advised such residents to leave the area to avoid impact of human lives and valuable assets. Joining the humanitarian minister on yesterday's briefing are the Minister of Environment, Isaac Saloko, as well as the Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph, and all of them promised to intensify efforts against the devastating impact of the flood, noting that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had already given them the task to ensure proper preparedness against the effect of the opening of the dam. But the big question or the big story for today is how really prepared is the federal government and even the state government in the impending disaster? And if not, what needs to be done and done fast to get Nigerians in the prone areas safe well? Well, all these and more as it concerns the release of water from the Lado Dam is what this edition of the big story is all about. And we're talking about the imminent flood 2023 Nigerians preparedness. And that's what we're having as a major discourse today on the big story. And you agree with me, it seems to be the biggest news that seems to be in the country at the moment. And we're talking about the release of water from Cameroon that will definitely affect 11 states in the Federation and most especially Delta State. Well, a need for us to talk about it, and who better to join us talk about this than someone that experienced it firsthand last year, a devastating impact on his communities and even his own father's house. Well, anyway, I'm sorry to remind you about that, but I'm talking of no other person but I'd rather put Pastor now. Pastor Dewa Egedigbe is of the Transition Monitoring Group right here in Delta State. Good morning and welcome to the show. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Well, anyway, before we go into the how really prepared, judging with that very statement coming from the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation yesterday, saying that in less than 7 days now, she said it just yesterday, that means we are having less than 7 days from now before it finally hits most of the states along the coastline of the river Benue. But before we go into how prepared we are, we're going to first of all, I want us to first look at the release of the water from the Lado Dam. It's now becoming a yearly occurrence. Last year, about this time, even funny enough, last year it came late. This year it's even coming a bit early. Last year it came as from the 13th of September, but this year we're having it way in August. And it looks now like if it's becoming a yearly occurrence. That's number one, because the last time we had it before last year, it was in 2012. Took about 10 years, but now we're just now getting to have it almost every year. And but my question is born out of the fact that climate change is real and also a reason that we are having this. But my question is, should this country, and I'm talking about Nigeria as a country, not take into that belief that climate change is real and do more, just like other climes, to ensure that the citizens are better prepared to deal with issues like this, knowing now that it's almost a yearly occurrence?
Thank you very much. That's a multi-billion question you've just asked. And that's a question that every Nigerian should be asking those in power today. I'd like to begin from there. Now, as at last year, we were foretold that this is going to be a reoccurrence.
Okay.
So it is not new that we're even hearing that statement from the minister just yesterday now.
Yes.
We've been foretold as at last year, owing to the climate change and the devastating effect that it comes with.
Yes.
We as a state, as a nation, we ought to prepare, put measures in place like it's done in other climes. But the challenge and the irony of our Nigerian states is that we are very reactionary as a people.
Okay.
We don't like that proactive aspect. How we can foresee a looming disaster and we put measures in place well ahead of time to mitigate such disasters.
Okay.
That's not our thinking. We don't like thinking in that direction. Rather, we'll wait until the eventuality has happened, then we'll begin to massage or try to do a quick fix that is never fixed in any case. So it's a major challenge, and it begs for a strange call, a wake-up call for the government at the national, government at the state, government at the local, and even government in the communities. Because there's a saying that said, a wise man, this is scriptural now, a wise man will foresee evil and he hid his head. You are aware of a looming danger and you are not taking steps. It makes a mockery of governance and make a mockery of us as a people. For instance, the question you ask is, between last year's flood, post-flood and now, what are the clear-cut measures put in place by the federal government? What are the clear-cut put in place by the state government and even the local government? And hear this, from that last year to date, allocation has not stopped coming to federal, state, and local government.
On account of it?
Of course! No, that is allocation. Yeah, okay. The monthly allocation has always been coming.
Yes.
And between the flooding last year and now, a new budget came into force. What was contained in that budget for mitigating the effect of a would-be disaster coming from flood? Having been told that, oh, this is going to be a recurring decimal in the coming days. Unlike when we had it, you know, in 2012, the next time we had it again was 2018, but that was even a bit mild. Yeah. But we saw what we saw last year, and we were told that even in the 2023 is going to be worse, and that's what we are saying. Thank God you said from your speech that this one is coming a bit earlier than the one we had last year. Yeah. So it is not supposed to be new to us. That is why there will be a definite call on the government at the central, government at the state, and government at the local level. If they have not prepared before, it shows that they were ill-prepared to even govern us in the first place.
Okay, anyway, let's come back to it. And when I mean come back to it, let's look at even that letter. As much as we're talking of our lack of preparation, which I will also take you on later. Let's look at the different aspect of it. So let's come back to that very letter that was sent to our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, indicating the release of the water. And funny enough, that letter got to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on the 25th day of August, because there's something coming from that letter that is giving a whole lot of persons a bit concerned. Now, this letter was sent on the 25th. On the mining, it was dated 21st of August of 2023. And the letter, I have a copy here. The copy of that very letter is here with me. But in our usual tradition on Quest Today, we go deep into our investigations. We don't just talk about issues. And we even stand to be corrected if we've made mistakes. We are open for correction. Or somebody should counter us and say, well, you didn't say it well. In our own investigation, we realized that Lado Dam was already opened. And it was opened 10 minutes past the hour of 10 a.m. on the 14th day of August. That was when it was opened. Not on the 21st that the letter was sent to us. It was opened a week before that letter was sent to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, according to our investigation. Now, my question is, why the delay in notification? That's the major question. And the reason I'm asking is, don't our country have ways they can monitor the rise of these waters, rather than putting all hope on Cameroon to tell us that, oh, they've done it? Because you talked about being proactive. As much as we are being proactive in dealing with the issues, should we not be proactive in watching that looking at the notification, looking at the rise of the water, and knowing when this water would be released. Because if they do not tell us, we do not know. If a letter was not sent during the weekend, nobody would have known. For the federal government to tell us it will now take 7 days before it gets to Nigeria. So why do we lack that strong monitoring team in dealing with these issues of checking to know if this water has been released already?
That simply speaks to the fact that we have a very poor mindset of the working class, the public servants, the civil servants in the states. Poor mindset, which is why I said we are tilted towards being reactionary rather than being proactive.
Yes.
Like you ask. So the Ministry of Water Resources, the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation, what are their staffs doing? Is there no desk officer that is supposed to be assigned to see to the rising of water or the drying off of water, so that you can advise the ministry and the agencies and department on what to do at every point in time? Are they just receiving salary for the fund of it? These are the questions we should be asking. These are the questions we should be asking. Good thing, at the Federal Executive meeting yesterday, the inaugural meeting held yesterday, there were some things that speaks to the positive to my mind, where Mr. President gave a marching order to all the ministers and what is expected of them per time, that he will be reviewing their performances, and anyone performing below expectation, he will not hesitate to also show them the way out. This is how you appear pragmatic in dealing with national issues, not being idle. And at the end of the month, your royalty will come to you for sitting in the office for doing nothing. Enough of that. So it is very challenging and alarming to see that staffs of agencies of government that are saddled with the responsibility of managing, protecting, guiding the nation by virtue of their office are just idle there, not telling us.
Is it that lessons were not learned from the devastation last year?
Is what I've
because
told you.
I really want to understand. Is it that lessons were not learned?
You see, that is why I used that sum up statement earlier. That look, we are more we are tilted towards being reactionary rather than being proactive.
Okay.
It's a problem. That's why I'm speaking on it. It's a problem that we need to demystify right at this point in time. For instance, by the time we come back to the state, you are going to hear a lot of things that we trust up in the course of last year. But between that time till now, I have not had anything. We've not had any mitigating effect, approach to addressing them. And here we are, 6 days remaining from the speech of the minister. 6 days remaining. So what are we doing? Which committees are in place? Going to these creeks and all these would be affected coastal areas to see what it was last year, what is likely to happen this year. Then if it happened this way, what do we do? Telling the people. It's not enough to just do a broadcast to say, oh, leave those areas. Where are they leaving the areas to? They will now leave those their huts and wherever what they put in their head to where? You have not told us. You just make a blanket statement. They should see how to evacuate them to where? There are no camps. There are no camps to even evacuate people to. So between last year flood and now, what was done to prepare for this happening that we are beginning to see in the coming days? It's not there. So our government must be accountable. They must seem to listen to the yearning and aspirations of the land. And even our citizens too are also gullible. They don't also know how to hold their government accountable. Government officials, having been elected, they will think of how they can, amass wealth in their pockets, waiting for the next election cycle, where they will throw crumbs at these oppressed citizens of theirs, whom they are supposed to represent ab initio. So it's a whole lot of, misnomer in our system that we must need to redirect. Okay. Obviously, we must redirect it in the coming days. Okay, now
I want us to go back, and when I mean go back, let's go back to last year. I know how really close you are to your people and your community. And your community was one of the hardest hits.
Several of them, not one. Yes, several of my communities.
Yes, in this very state. But my question is, have they been able to get away from that disaster? Have they been able to continue with their life? That now this one is now staring them in the face, less than 6 years. How have they been able to reposition their lives after that devastation?
Thank you for that very nice question. I will consider. Now, from that last flood till date, there is no government response to these people that were badly devastated. All their produce got washed. The ones they were able to even, secure, got enmeshed in the water because they couldn't bring it out. Don't forget, I am from the coastal area.
Of course, I do know.
Now, there are no access roads to those areas. No access roads. There are no enough boats that can even take people out of those areas. As I speak to you now, last 2 weeks, I visited some of those coastal areas for engagement with community leaders to see how prepared are they with this. I tell those people are beginning to make some makeshift, huts way above, the water level, to see how they can preserve their things. This is their own community effort, individual effort they are putting in place. Our government is not even looking in that direction. You remember when we were on air here last year to speak about the devastating effect of the flood on our citizens. The then Commissioner for Environment was supposed to be with us, but he declined. We didn't see him throughout our period of that interview. Thereafter, there was no response. And that's a government. Somebody will come tomorrow and read figures that are not feasible, tell us things that never happened, and we say we are a government? No. No. This time we are ready to shame any system that is not living up to expectation. We are not going to miss words. We will say it the way it is, whether they like it or not. The moment you subscribe yourself, you bring yourself out and you want to lead the people, then you must be ready for the backlash. You must be ready for the praise that comes with it if you do well. But if you fail to do well, get ready for the shame. Get ready for the shame. And nobody will be intimidated this time around. If the government is doing well, we will sing their praise to high heavens. But if they are not doing well, we will not hesitate to shame them at every inch of their journey. That's what we are prepared to do. Particularly from the civil society, we are, having a groundswell of all our members to engage government more objectively this time around. It's not to slander government. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We are saying that the moment government is taking the right step, we will thumb it up for them. But if they are taking negative step, we will shame them at every opportunity that we have. We will not hesitate. I repeat it again.
But so the life of those affected, have they been able to recover?
Recovery, they've not. But however, there are people who are so resilient because of, that's where they were born. And of course, so that resilience is there in them. They've been able to also cultivate, it's more of those areas are agrarian areas, farming, fishery, and those are their source of livelihood. They went back, put their pieces together after the devastating flood, and some went cultivating tomato, cassava, yams, and all of those produce, groundnut. And, some of those produce their lifespan is within 3-4 months, some 7 months, some 8 months in that order. So some have been able to, do that hurriedly, and some are beginning to rake in some things. Then there's some of these produce are still well at their maturity stage.
Yeah.
Now, when this flood will come, flood does, one day of flood is excruciating, can be excruciating.
Yes.
So
you can just wake up and see
you
the
can
level.
just wake up and you get a match in water. My mother, who is 97 this year, in the 2012 flood, if not for God, she would have lost her life. Where she was, because the whole ground was submerged then, the building collapsed, an old building. But God just saved her. She went to Will. While she was there, returning from the whole building came down. So the building would have come down on her. So that's to tell you how devastating the flood can be. Which is why a lot of enlightenment, education, providing where necessary for these people is critical. The essence of government is to ensure the security of lives and property. So once this is not in place, then it becomes an abuse of system. With due respect to those in government, honestly.
Well, anyway, we'll not abuse our time because we need to go on a break now, though. But when we come back, we'll continue our discussion as we look at the impending disaster, knowing that it's just 6 days from now, as being stated by the federal government, saying that in less than a week time, the waters will be hitting the coastline, and we're talking about those major states around the Niger River Niger and that of Benue, and we at the Niger Delta will also experience a lot of it. But what needs to be done is a big question, and how really prepared we are is another major one. But what I know we need to do now is go on a break, and when we come back, more discussion centered on this.